Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host of the most, Griever, as always, bringing you guys some more FBL content. Yes, that's right, False-Bound League interviews. And this time, I'm with my good friend Graceful of the Toronto Blue Eyes. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you first got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And False-Bound Kingdom, Graceful?
Sure thing, Griever. My name's Graceful, and I speedrun the vanilla versions of this game when I'm not fixing flat tires on my car. I've had False-Bound Kingdom since I was a kid in my GameCube library, and really got into speedrunning the game during the pandemic when stuck at home. To basically just kind of have a game to try speedrunning. So while I was doing that, I ended up getting a little bit close to the world record, but never quite there. But I still love the game anyway. As for how I came into the False-Bound League here, came across it when I was grinding Kaiba story runs, and I saw your channel actually. So I love the knowledge that we've been sharing here, and yeah, really looking forward to the run here.
Excellent, excellent. So you didn't really get into, because I've been hearing this answer a lot. A lot of people that are playing for the season didn't really get into it because of the card game or the first episode of the anime or anything like that. It seems to be different reasons.
Well, of course, I grew up with the anime when I was a kid.
Okay, sure.
And all of the 4Kid stuff and
yeah.
And like.
But when you got really into
stuff,
Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess yeah.
Yeah, I guess I've always kind of been in liking Yu-Gi-Oh stuff like ever so often.
Okay.
There was a time that I didn't really pay attention to Yu-Gi-Oh, but I seem to have come back to it, so I guess that's where I am.
Sure, 100%.
Yep.
So my next question is, how do you feel about your draft? Are you confident? Is there something you wish you had gotten and didn't get, or anything like that?
Well, Griever, I'm feeling the kind of confidence that one can only feel having never played Nuzlocke before.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean,
I'm looking forward to determining why exactly the drafting of Time Wizard in the second round wasn't as big of a reach. Level 1 paralysis guaranteed should make the first couple of missions go by quicker for me. Assuming it actually survives with its low HP. But
sure.
Yeah, lots of monsters that I'm glad I got. Got 2/3 of the speedrun team that I typically use for Kaiba.
Okay.
Of course, I think it was Tom who blocked me from having what's it called? Snake hair.
Yeah.
And that's about it for that one. But yeah.
I mean, just to go down your list really quick, you do have some solid teams. Your Kaiba team is, of course, very strong, though early on has great power, not great AP. But you make up for that with Gaia the Dragon Champion, of course. Your Pegasus team is probably my favorite. It's a fantastic team. I mean, you got one of my favorite monsters, Buster Blader. I would have went for him had you not. And I like your Labyrinth Ruler team too. Team.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, the other teams, once again, some monsters I would never draft, some monsters I would draft. But and I like the fact that you have kept, because a lot of people, a concern that has arisen in one or two interviews was that a lot of people are putting too much faith in the fact that all their teams are going to live, and they are basically putting their worst combinations and leftovers on Mokuba and Mathis teams. You have not done so, and that's probably might be to your, I doubt it'll be to your downfall, but it definitely will potentially be to your benefit, I think.
Oh, certainly. Like for instance, Lord of Dragon I put on Marthas's team because the main reason that I had drafted Lord of Dragon to the team to begin with is because it gets level 5 magic. So basically, Lord of Dragon is just mostly like a gamble on my end that I'll eventually find a Regeki. If I find a Regeki, that team just becomes a sweeper team. And that's really kind of what I'm hoping for that team. So to me, it just made perfect sense for putting that on Martha's Ishtar.
Yeah, once again, I was going to mention that. A lot of people are forgetting that the Mathis' team becomes the Ishtar team.
And sure does in this, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that everyone's going to have their solid teams by that point, but let's say you have a couple of really bad missions. by the time you get Ishtar back, let's say you're still going, but you had some heavy hitters that just critical hits, things that didn't go in your favor, right? If you come back and you get a team like this, maybe underleveled, but maybe still viable? I mean, let's be real, we can't EXP grind, but at least you would have something in the chamber, so to speak, right?
Of course, and worst case scenario, I can just take the points hit and just like dissolve that team into some of the other teams that need patching. Either way, I think the way that a lot of the teams are drafted that way at least gives me a lot of options in the later game. But I guess primarily the reason that I set those teams the way that I did is because like if I don't get past mission 1, the other teams don't matter. So basically that was a motivating factor behind a lot of it.
All right, fair enough. Great answer. So continuing with the draft questions, what do you think about everyone else's draft? Are there some that you really like, some that you really hate? What do you think is the best, worst draft? Just any thoughts on other duelist drafts?
Certainly. So my biased take on the worst draft has to go to Tom in second flock, just for blocking me from having triple harpies and blue eyes. But again, that's just salt on my end. But in all seriousness, I'm very curious how Tom's team is going to do, given he seemed to have a very reactionary draft to what other people were drafting. He did get a couple of solid monsters though, and yeah, his team was really good on that one. But I think the MVP of just like craziest drafts has to go to ZZ Nap's Bug team. That's just legendary.
It's funny that you mentioned it in a good light. You're mentioned because a couple of people have mentioned it as, I don't know about that.
I mean, I don't know about it either, but basically how early he finds Beast Wings is going to be insane. Beast Fangs rather is going to be insanely critical to how his run goes. Like if he gets Beast Fangs in the first mission, oh, he's laughing.
Yep.
But unless he does that,
a lot of people have been talking about that, and I'm sitting here going, well, first off, his Bones team is defense solid with an early paralysis and high AP Larvamoth, who proved himself last in the balance patch, proved himself last time. His Labyrinth Ruler team is stocked. His Pegasus and Kaiba team are going to be broken if they get past a couple of missions. I mean, you know, like people make fun of it, but at the end of the day, he's got still some very solid teams. Some of his teams are definitely more well built than mine, I would argue. So,
absolutely.
So,
speaking of your team, I really like that you were able to get Dark Magician Girl and Magician of Black Chaos early.
Yeah.
I assume that it's going to be a good pick for you, just based off of the fact, like, we're going to get the Z attack early for that. Could be. I
don't know when I get it. I don't think I get it till later in the game. I'm not sure how the balance patch did with that one.
Yeah, I think it might be like either 30 or 25, something around that level. But
if it's by 25, then I've got a really good thing going.
like that's a sweeper team if that's actually the case for you.
100%.
Like normally
especially,
they learned it at like 40.
Right.
In like the vanilla game. So.
And that's why I added Flame Swordsman to differentiate from the spellcasters, because also Salamandra, and
exactly.
a very strong. So I also have another attack all move, but also a strong warrior type with a couple legendary swords. I mean, yeah, yeah, I'm
absolutely
very happy.
And one more team I want to shout out here is Plays' team.
Okay.
And like the more that I look at that team, the more I like it. Because he's got a good balance of types, some with very above average AP, decent attacks all around, and he even optimized his draft to wait until the end to draft his Ritual Infusion monsters when we were all drafting like Shadow Spectre, the worst monster in the game. But yeah,
I mean, very.
I had to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, very early on choices, and that's actually that's why I sort of dislike my draft compared to I like it. But I don't love it the same way I love my first season draft. Because of that point that you just brought up about plays, I drafted the same way. I drafted for diversity. I drafted to make sure that I didn't have... Because last time I got burned by having too many spellcasters and too many warriors on just one team especially. So not only did I draft with enough options to my name, whether strong or weak. I wasn't looking at that. I was looking at diversity, type diversity, and then playing that field amongst all my marshals, to really make sure that I didn't have one key weakness that I would run into later on.
Absolutely, and I tried to do basically the same thing with my team, but if you look at the makeup of my team, you'll find that I hate machine monsters for whatever reason. I couldn't draft a single one of them this year.
Yeah, it's funny. The only one that I managed to grab was Alpha, and that was, contrary to popular belief, was not a snipe. I grabbed Alpha because it was the last machine, and last time in Season 1, our first mission, we had shock shells available at the very beginning. So if you had a machine-type monster, you were pretty golden for early missions. So even though I put Alpha on Rex, I mean, if let's say we all get very bad RNG in the seed, but I get a couple of, wouldn't it not suck if you got no spellcasters and you got a bunch of Book of Secret Arts? You know what I mean? So,
of course, you want to be prepared for basically picking up whatever item the game throws at you. So diversity in monster types is very crucial for that.
Yeah, in the format we're playing, diversity means more than, I guess, overall like AP and strength and that kind of idea, I would think.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Although one thing I will say about my team in that regard, at least, is like my team, I drafted a lot of heavy hitters. Mm-hmm. So I drafted a lot of high attack, low AP monsters. So we'll see how that strategy plays off for me, or if I'm going to have to revisit my draft strategy next time. But only time will tell.
I will say, from my own experience, it's one of the reasons that Soggy the Dark Clown has been deemed Soggy the Dark King from the last season.
Right on.
Is that high AP, regardless of stats, matters a lot, especially in a Nuzlocke. Because having enough moves to be able to get yourself out of situations sometimes is what matters. More than being able to defeat something, it's more about being able to survive something. And you can't do that if you've only got, great, I got 3 blue eyes, they only have 2 AP apiece, and you're fighting something that has 9 apiece. I'm sorry, no matter how much attack power Blue Eyes has, he's not surviving 9 attacks from 3 different monsters. So... But yeah. So the next question is, any particular missions that you, from the Kaiba campaign, that you're worried about going in with your draft?
Of course. So I've speedrun the Kaiba campaign, like, most recently, like, May of this year.
Okay.
Always my biggest reset points were always the first couple of missions. So, at least as far, and like doubly so, I'm kind of concerned about my team going through those first 3 missions, as I have like Lord of D and Time Wizard that are both low HP monsters.
Yep.
Some of the other monsters can definitely tank the hits. Those guys are just going to... I'm going to need to find healing items quickly to be able to keep those 2 alive, essentially, is how I figure I'm going to have to do for that. Another interesting one to see everybody do will be Dragon Lair, just because it's only Kaiba's and Pegasus' team.
Okay.
But everybody that I've seen so far, as far as the teams are concerned, seems to have just loaded up their Kaiba and Pegasus teams. And I can't blame them, having done the exact same thing myself. But yeah,
I did the same thing.
Once the Nuzlocke starts, all bets are off.
I mean, absolutely. And I did the same thing. Number one, I really like using Pegasus as a marshal by default anyways. And I loaded up my team, and I've said this in multiple interviews, I loaded up my team because I was... Peer pressure's not the right word, but I got Soggy. Soggy has to go on Kaiba's team, obviously. But I didn't want to be caught in the same rut that I was last season. So what I ended up doing was I didn't want 3 spellcasters, and even though I got the combo, I needed to put the Magician of Black Chaos and Dark Magician Girl on another team. And so I chose my second favorite marshal. It was either going to be Pegasus or Labyrinth Ruler was going to get that combo. And it just ended up being Pegasus. But yeah, a lot of people have loaded up their Pegasus team because of Dragon's Lair.
And also the fact that Pegasus is a required marshal in, like, I think it was like 10 to 15 team missions or something like that.
That's
like a lot too.
Yeah.
The other one I'm interested to see our duelist's face is Slifer at the end of the game, just because you do not want Thunderbolt summons to go off and decimate your game. And like with our new rule set that we have here this year,
they have to attack once.
You have to let him attack once. Yeah. Although I plan on
or not attack once, he's got to move once.
Exactly. Once. And if my paralyzed strategies all go as to concern, this won't be an issue. But again, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we will have to see. So, and I actually don't know how that works out if you end up paralyzing Slifer until he gets, because it's when he uses up an AP point, not, you get 9 turns, right? So if you paralyze him but you can't kill him and you run out of AP, you still can't run, and then he's got all his Thunderbolt summons, right? So
I guess then you're waiting as a marshal then? I don't know.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of strategies, but it is going to be interesting, and nobody should really give anything away this early, so...
oh, for sure, yeah.
So, what do you think of the rule set, by the way, for this season? Are there any rules or changes you would have made, or things, or rules that you don't like, or rules that you think, anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's an alright rule set for the season. I'm more used to less strict rules when speedrunning, so
of course, but we're doing hardcore Nuzlocke,
of course.
Plus, yeah.
I know. Yeah, the harder gameplay for us benefits the viewers, and that we're playing a harder and more interesting game. So, hey, all for it there. The only rule I'd really change is to just allow use of healers at bases, providing that the healing costs double, so that it really costs a lot to like you can heal, but it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Because we do allow healers at base, but yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, you have to also understand too. At the end of the day, we are playing a certain, as the fact is, we are playing a certain way. So you also sometimes have to conserve your money. You know what I mean? Because
there's going to be a run. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you run into Raigeki early on, but you spent your money on barricades and healers in Mission 3, all of a sudden you can't afford a Raigeki, and you have a spellcaster. You're like, what? I can't buy that no matter what I do in this mission. I'm going to pass up a Raigeki, So, always save your pennies as far as I'm concerned. So,
yeah, that's one thing I'm definitely not going to, that's one thing that's definitely going to change for the speedrun. Although the speedrun basically grinds a whole bunch of money at the start of it just using the money code, which I'm fairly sure is not allowed for this one.
No, we do not allow the Konami code. I will not be doing that. We do not allow the Konami code, nope. But yeah, actually, not a bad take though to make it a little more difficult is that we allow the healer, but the healer costs a little bit more. Is not a bad addition to the rule. And my last question to you is, if you could have one monster that you did not get in this draft, which one would you have picked? Obviously, not including Blue Eyes Ultimate, the God card, the things that we wouldn't draft anyways.
Of course. But I'm still going to pick the third Blue Eyes that was drafted, I would say stolen from me.
Yeah, and it was.
Just to have the Kaiba team with 3 Blue Eyes as raw intended. But
100%.
But another monster that I'll shout out Tom for would be having Snake Hair, as I mentioned, because that would have allowed me to have basically my speedrun team from the Kaiba campaign that I would have been used to, which would have been interesting. But he got a good monster in that. So.
Yep, and a lot of people see. I like to. I honestly draft with the heart of the cards, so to speak. I don't really draft for efficiency. I don't draft for para and blind and sleep and that kind of idea, or speed running. I draft with monsters that I like, not monsters that are good. So I play a very different game, but I definitely agree with you that Snake Hair, even though I don't care for Snake Hair, such a viable monster early game. Same with your early draft of Time Wizard, you know what I mean? Level 1 paralysis cannot be ignored as a very viable option going forward. So,
Yeah, it's just you need to basically adjust your strategy to be able to protect that level 1 paralysis instead of just having it die on the first mission. So
That's right. That's right. And of course, you're going to have a little bit more of a challenge to take out a little bit of the speedrunner out of you to try to keep your monsters alive too.
of course, yeah, because like in the speed run, like if the monster dies, it's basically like, so what? The monster died.
Yep.
As long as you complete the mission, you're golden as far as the speed run is concerned.
Yep.
Here, it's a bit more difficult because again, it's a Nuzlocke. So
That's right. That's right. So I'm actually going to be very interested, particularly in watching your run because you're such a great speed runner. You're probably going to dwarf most of our speeds, but it's going to be interesting with the new set of the Nuzlocke rules without being able to and you can still, of course, sacrifice monsters for the sake of the speed, but are you willing to do it for the longevity of keeping the run? You know what I mean? It's going to be interesting to see what decision makes. Because we've had to make those even without speed running in the first season. There was a lot of that too. It was like, do I sack this team to win the mission and live to fight another day? Or do I take the gamble on maybe running out of time? Or there's a lot of that, right? So, yeah. So, anyways, that's, I guess, all the questions that I had for you, Graceful. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Do you have anything else you want to shout out before we end the interview?
I just want to shout out basically that I guess it's time to do it tomorrow. So everybody, stay glued to your I guess computer monitors or whatever it is we use these days.
There we go. There we go. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much to Graceful of the Toronto Blue Eyes for being a part of this interview. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we will be back here with some more FBL, the Falsebound League content coming to you guys very, very soon, I'm sure. Thanks, guys, so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Have a good one.